On mobile, it's been shown that you have about 3 seconds for the page to load before somebody will just bounce and ignore your page altogether. And with desktop, you have a little bit more time. I think it's like 4 or 5 seconds. But basically, you need that page to load as quickly as possible. Now, if you have a website that is heavily dependent on images, video, anything like that, that takes up a huge amount of bandwidth. And if the person is on a less than stellar network, or if they're on a mobile phone, then that can really degrade the speed that your page loads. And so if you want to get the most bang for the buck out of your spend on landing pages, websites, and so forth, you really need to optimize that page so that the images load quickly. And even if you have fairly compressed images, so you should obviously be compressing your images as small as possible, and we can talk about lossless image compression in some other video. But I'm going to assume that that's all happening. But even if you do compress your images already, every single image adds up. So even if it's like a 50 kilobyte file, 25 kilobyte file, 100 kilobyte file, but you've got a bunch of these stacked on your page, all of that adds up, where if you've got a megabyte or a couple megabytes to download, that'll really slow things down. So what's a solution? Well, a solution is to use something like AWS, Amazon Web Services. They have a product called S3. There's other networks, content management systems you can use, Akamai setups, where the files are stored outside of WordPress. Okay, so your hosting will serve the HTML and the CSS and those files that make your website show up on a browser, right? But you don't necessarily want to hold your media files within that same hosting service. So it's more effective and faster for you to host the media files separate from your WordPress or your website files. And then basically they're loading from different places. So let's get into how you would go about once you have something like an AWS set up. And I'm not going to go through the setup because there's other videos that you can find, or your tech people can do this. But if you have something like an AWS S3, then I'm going to walk you through how to load an image onto that file, and then what you would do within WordPress so that WordPress isn't looking internally for that file, it's looking out to your content management system. So let's just start. So this is the main console dashboard within Amazon Web Services. And so I'm going to go up to Services and go find S3. Right now I've got my home, then I've got a bunch of files within here, right? So this is going to be, I'm going to go into blog images. And what I've done is created a bunch of folders so that I can organize it. You don't have to do this, but I just find it a little bit easier to keep things organized. So, so I'm going to go into the Ellis Pond, which is my website, blog images. So I can keep these all sorted. And we're going to go ahead and upload a file. And the reason I'm doing this isn't, well, this is for speed, but we recently did a migration to some different servers, and we lost some of the image files. So like if you go here, you can see this is an empty space where an image used to be. And so I'm going through the process of updating these and getting these images set up. But this would also work if you were replacing images that are currently hosted with your hosting service and are trying to host them in a different place like AWS. So I'm going to go into, I'm already into the blog images folder, and we're just going to upload. So it's as simple as going and either dropping a file in here or browsing and finding it. And that brings it in. We're going to click on next, and you can do multiple files. I'm just doing this as an example so you can see how this works. And you need to manage the permissions. It defaults to not grant public read access, but if you want people to view this on the interwebs, then we're going to go ahead and grant public read access to this. Yep, that's fine. It's a little bit scary, those messages, if you haven't seen that before, but it's perfectly fine. So we're going to go through, we've set the permissions we want, click on upload, and now this has been brought up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that button, and this is the URL we're going to use within WordPress to pull up this image. So I'm just going to right click on it and copy, and then go back to WordPress and find the image, okay? So we're going to go in and let's see, full image, and there we go. Just going to copy and paste. Now we have a different URL, and I'm going to click on update. Now we're going to go to the actual page and do a hard refresh. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and then hit the reload button. Now we've got our image. And it's pulling from AWS, not from my hosting. So this speeds up the loading. So when people click on this website or click on this blog post, then this image is going to be loading separate from the rest of the post, and it's not going to degrade the speed that the page loads with. So this is something that really can seriously speed up and add rocket fuel to the page speed of your site. So if you're having a bad user experience, if you're clocking at a slow speed, if you're getting messages from Google basically saying, hey, your page is loading slowly or whatever, then this is an easy way to speed up your site without having to upgrade your hosting and anything like that. So I hope this is helpful. Leave a comment if you have any questions or comments or answers. Talk to you soon.